Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't I wanna ball. Waking up meant that he gave me a chance and I'm rolling the dice. I do it all, living like I'm trying to go for the platinum trophy in life. Who can you call? Really nobody, so you should just follow me on your device. And know if she chillin' with me, then it's bound to be chemical X and the sugar and spice. Game in the system, but game is the hobby. I'm probably cocky, but hot as wasabi. I mean, if it's beef, then you know where to find me. My niggas is ready and so is my body. You should be running and telling your posse and what's in the speakers and what's in your potty. And she trying to kick it, but this ain't karate. Just keep that shit down while I'm watching Tsunami. I ain't saying I'm a super nerd, but I told you when we got involved, my idea of a perfect date is a PlayStation and some alcohol. I was role playing on GTA. I'm a good guy, but I got it all. If the world should end, be the first to leave, but the last of us acting naughty, dog. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. I wanna ball. Waking up meant that he gave me a chance and I'm rolling the dice. I do it all, living like I'm trying to go for the platinum trophy in life. Who can you call? Really nobody, so you should just follow me on your device. And know if she chillin' with me, then it's bound to be chemical X and the sugar and spice. Game in the system, but game is the hobby. I'm probably cocky, but hot as wasabi. I mean, if it's beef, then you know where to find me. My niggas is ready and so is my body. You should be running and telling your posse and what's in the speakers and what's in your potty. And she trying to kick it, but this ain't karate. Just keep that shit down while I'm watching Tsunami. I ain't saying I'm a super nerd, but I told you when we got involved, my idea of a perfect date is a PlayStation and some alcohol. I was role playing on GTA. I'm a good guy, but I got it all. If the world should end, be the first to leave, but the last of us acting naughty, dog. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. I wanna ball. Waking up meant that he gave me a chance and I'm rolling the dice. I do it all, living like I'm trying to go for the platinum trophy in life. Who can you call? Really nobody, so you should just follow me on your device. And know if she chillin' with me, then it's bound to be chemical X and the sugar and spice. Game in the system, but game is the hobby. I'm probably cocky, but hot as wasabi. I mean, if it's beef, then you know where to find me. My niggas is ready and so is my body. You should be running and telling your posse and what's in the speakers and what's in your potty. And she trying to kick it, but this ain't karate. Just keep that shit down while I'm watching Tsunami. I ain't saying I'm a super nerd, but I told you when we got involved, my idea of a perfect date is a PlayStation and some alcohol. I was role playing on GTA. I'm a good guy, but I got it all. If the world should end, be the first to leave, but the last of us acting naughty, dog. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game.
What is crack-a-lack and what is happening, everybody? We are back for episode 3 of Cogs in the Machine. I'm back here with my a brother from another mother, Trevor. We are here to entertain you and talk about all kinds of things. Remember, this is a long form show, so grab some snacks, grab some drinks, grab some wine, grab some alcohol, grab some G Fuel that Trevor has, and sit with us as we dive into these
Oh yeah,
topics today. So, Trevor,
yeah,
give the people an introduction who you are if they might not know, which you should.
yeah. So I'm Trevor Oz. I do community and PR and stuff over at Winterborn. You can follow them or us at Winterborn Games on everything. We're making a sweet strategy RPG called Externus, Path of the Solari that should be launching later this year if all goes according to plan. But uh, but yeah, I've been doing gaming stuff for a long, long time. Going on almost 10 years actually. So
Oh
just
man.
trying to dip my toe in the content creation game and stuff like that.
Mm,
So yeah, I started doing a lot of stuff in like 2012. Um, and then I that's with a lot of time off in between at certain things, but uh, I love talking about games. I have worked around games since like 2004, even if not directly involved in, because I did work a long time in video game retail.
ooh,
Um, so,
bless your heart.
but man, like the thing is, like I loved talking about games while doing that job. It's just the corporation around it was
Yeah.
more the thing that s- sucked the soul out of me. I should say.
Oh,
Um,
now
but the
you're here.
actual interacting with people and other people that play video games, that's what kept me doing it for so long. I think because I got to come in every day and talk about video games, and that's why I like doing stuff like this because I just get to sit here and talk about video games with someone else who's very knowledgeable, and we can just shoot the shit and get to talking and maybe deep dive a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly what we're going to be doing today. But what's up, Dallas? What's up, Hustle? What's up, Flames? What's up, Fame? How are you guys doing? Fame, you should be in bed soon, old man. Before we get into our topic, which is going to be behind the games, hidden mechanics in games. There's going to be a lot of talking about stuff that is going to be may blow your mind, may not. Uh, I will remind me to link every video. I will post the names up on the screen for us, but every video we post, because the people who are talking about it have really good breakdowns of what they're actually talking about and how you can do it yourself. Before we get into that, we are at $911. We are so close to our fundraising goal. $1,000 for Extra Life. Remember, the stream is November 6th. I will be playing 2 horror games, and Fame will be playing a Soulsborne. So I have to at least complete 1 horror game. That's going to be fun. Dallas and I were talking about doing a demo, either hour or 2 hours, where we play demos of games, which Externus is definitely going to be on there because Dallas wants to replay it. Uh, so, you know, come hang out with us November 6th, and we just thank you guys for your support, whoever's supported us so far. You guys have been awesome. We are here just to entertain. So,
I just want to say a big shout out to Baron for
yes.
getting a whole lot of that close to $1,000 has been
Mm-hmm.
because of his hard work. So he's killing it.
Baron, you don't get enough appreciation and love, but you are so vital and so important to us. And if you're watching right now, make sure you guys subscribe because we are 1 away from 300 on the YouTube channel, which thank you, guys. It is
Yeah,
awesome.
do it. Subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs
Hmm.
$0 for you to
And then
subscribe on YouTube, and all the cool kids are doing it. So I mean,
literally,
if you can't stand the peer pressure of not being subscribed, then you should
mm-hmm.
definitely subscribe.
Mm-hmm. Also, thank you guys just for being awesome. Now, the first topic that we're going to talk about is the nemesis system in gaming. So knows a lot more about this than I do. I just know the controversies behind it. Um, let me give you guys who the video we're going to be watching. The Game Maker's Toolkit. He dives into a lot of videos and a lot of behind the scenes stuff like this. So we're going to watch how the nemesis story was created while Trevor talks about what the nemesis is, why it's so important, why it shouldn't, or maybe should be patent protected, and all that.
So I almost feel like the Nemesis system, just to start off, ended up getting its patent because no one else tried to do it in the meantime. So it's kind of one of those things where, if someone else had tried to do it, I don't think they necessarily maybe would have gotten the patent to go along with it. But the Nemesis system is essentially, it's complex. It's a tiered system, where essentially you have a group of enemies that you kind of go up the chain of you kill this guy, and then essentially it creates another bad guy for you to fight within like a power hierarchy structure. Uh, and it's kind of about like clearing that out and going to the top, and that was just the in the first Mordor game. When they
Mhm.
complicated it even more in the second one, to where they added in a ton of different factors, from the from you could run away now, and that'll have basically creates these organic storylines with these uh, randomly generated orcs. Essentially, like they put together a ton of different parameters, basically threw them in a box, and then it randomly generates these orcs. And the fact that it randomly generates these orcs with voice acting and
Mhm.
everything to go along with it, it's insane. And the fact that basically there's now different parameters. Like if you run away, that'll create a different storyline with them. If you kill them, maybe they'll come back and say like, "Hey, your magic kept me alive. Whatever you killed me with kept me alive," and creates that. Or you could kill somebody, and then his brother or like somebody else will come in and be like, "You killed my brother." And I mean, there's like so many different factors and storylines, and like that it just creates out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. It almost reminds me of the storylines I would create in my head, with uh, the thing that I thought of was, oddly enough, the most recent XCOM game. Well, I guess the remake uh, of XCOM, where if you named your characters, they kind of became your characters, and you remember the time when Jeff got shot and got killed by this alien on this certain map and stuff like that. Um, but it's one of those things where you make these stories up in your head, and it's not the actual game making up the story. It's you making up these stories based on you just naming something.
Yeah.
But this takes it to like the nth degree of actually creating a storyline that's voiced, and everything. And it's like I can't even begin to tell you how complicated that has to be to create, and it's it's really cool. Like that's one of the things. That's why I literally love the Shadow of Mordor games, because of the Nemesis system, because it's so robust and so different every time you play it. And it could literally go in thousands of random directions. Um, and yeah, it's really cool. And the second one also added like recruiting guys, and that
Wow.
changes, like it's insane. Like I don't even, if I sat here and talked about every little single detail that they added into this thing, like
There we go. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay.
Episode 3 is rough.
Yeah, we're having a rough episode. But we were saying that it's crazy that no one else has done the Nemesis system the way that it is now. Where maybe people were scared off uh, by either the possibility that it was being patented, or as Hugger said, maybe it's just too complicated of a thing for someone else to get in there. And I think that's probably part of it too, because to do it right takes a lot of work, I'm sure. And I would love to put something like this in a game, but man, I can just imagine the amount of work it would take to do it.
And I think, like I was saying, it needs to be an open world game because, I mean, with a linear game, you know what's going to happen. Once the story's over, you're pretty much going to stop playing. I'll play Mordor, still play Mordor, both of them, because I'm like, ooh, who am I going to come across now? I don't know if you could do it in a game that once it's over, it's over.
Yeah, I just can't believe that, like the thing that just makes it mind-boggling to me is just like the amount of voice acting and everything that's in it.
Hmm.
Just there's so much that I'm like how did they take the time to do all this, to put all this detail in it? It's the sheer amount of work that takes.
Hmm.
It's just like kudos to that team. Like Monolith does really great games. I mean, I've loved pretty much all the stuff that they've done in the past, for the most part, and this is just them taking it up the next notch. So I'm really curious as to see what they're working on next, because I don't know, because they haven't announced like I don't think they've announced the game since Shadow of War came out. So
No, let's let's double check.
I don't think they have, but I mean I could be wrong.
Oh, Monolith, what you got for me? I'm trying to remember what Monolith was before this.
Well, they did the Fear games.
Mm,
Um,
those are good games.
they did Condemned 1 and 2. They did oddly enough they did that Gotham City Imposters game.
I
Um,
used to love that. This isn't Monolith. What is this? Another Monolith.
yeah, there's two monoliths. There's Monolith Productions and
Yeah.
the other monolith. Um,
Uh, let's see. Yeah, nothing. Nothing on the docket as of now for Monolith.
yeah, so they got to be working on something. I mean, I'm sure you know because it was 2017 when Shadow of War came out. So
Hmm.
I mean, it would be about that time when they'd be announcing something. It's
Maybe
hard to say
E3.
with COVID. It's
Yeah,
possible that may have pushed things back or anything like that. But I mean, you got to think in the next year or two, we're going to see something from Monolith.
maybe they're
So I'm
working
very
on.
curious as to what they're doing.
Maybe they're working on Jesus, reacquiring the No One Lives Forever titles. That would be fine. I would
That would
take
be
that.
really cool. Yeah, that's something we'll talk about in the future. But at this juncture, no one knows who owns No One Lives Forever.
Hmm.
Um, so that's definitely a topic we'll talk about in the future. About just games that fall through the cracks because of sales and whatnot.
What do you guys
So
in the comments think about the monolith system? Or not the, oh my god. I
the
was just,
Nemesis system.
yeah, I was reading Little Toxic's comment. I was like, monolith, no. Do you think it should be in more games? Do you think there's other games it could be in besides like open world story continuing kind of forever games? Let me know in the comment section
Yeah,
below.
I mean, it essentially turns an open world game into a roguelike.
I
Um,
wonder if a game like Destiny or Red Dead or something could have that
I
because it's
think
always
Destiny for
online.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
cool.
Something like that could work in Red Dead though. That'd be really cool to have different different cowboys. I mean, you could switch out, you know,
And not just another
different.
player.
Yeah, yeah. Like you could switch out different outfits and you know, different guns and stuff like that, and that sort of thing. It'd be interesting.
Hmm. Uh, so if you want to watch this, the video we've been watching for this is Game Maker's Toolkit. Great guy, makes a lot of like these in-depth behind the scenes videos and understanding games and all that.
But
Great.
yeah, definitely go check out his stuff. Like I got stuck in a wormhole of that, but
Yeah.
I know Toxic was saying in the chat that like the Batman games could probably use something like the Nemesis system, which should be really interesting actually as a way to do that. Just imagine fighting like one of like Joker's cronies, and like they beat you up and then become like a bigger piece of the puzzle.
Would be
That would
cool.
kind of be cool. Yeah. So there's definitely I think there's definitely some use cases out there for other games that could use the Nemesis system for sure.
And like, oof, brain, great sentence you put together. I think it just expands the gameplay options because there'd be people that just do that.
Yeah, and
But man,
I think in a game like the Mordor games, like one of its strengths is it does a very good job of showing you how to play in different styles.
hmm,
Um, maybe better than a lot of other games too. Just the way that the combat flows in the game. So whether you're playing stealth or whether you're playing just straight up uh, chopping, you know, chopping dudes up with a sword, you know,
that's true.
melee combat, or even just range combat. And like with the Nemesis system, where different enemies have different weaknesses, it allows you to kind of pick and choose how you want to attack each enemy, like each and go into each battle. So it changes up the way you play even as you're playing,
Hmm.
and kind of like I don't want to say forces you into other play styles, but it definitely makes you think about those other play styles more so than other games. Because other games you probably will pick the style that works for you and not really dip into the other ways to play.
Yeah,
Whereas in the Mordor games, you're constantly changing tactics because it just ends up being better. And they do a good job of letting you switch between tactics more easily the way they
and
have their combat system set up.
I really like that. With this will probably be another future video. Is the when games introduce you to a whole bunch of mechanics, but then only narrow it down to like one, or they don't introduce something till the very end. It's like, why? Why would you do that? Don't do that. Like, if you're gonna use a mechanic, make sure I'm familiar with it. Don't throw it at me in the boss fight. Because I've played a couple games that are like that, and oh god,
It's,
oh god. Make
I
sure
think a
y'all
lot
grab
of that,
snacks too before we going.
yeah, I think a lot of that just comes down to trying to keep people engaged in the later hours,
Hmm.
trying to keep them going, and so they're like, "Hey, let's introduce something new because you know maybe that'll keep them playing." But depending on the game, it may or may not actually work like that.
Yeah.
So
Uh, Little toxic. Did we talk about the ping system in battle royale games? We're talking about the behind the scenes more than the actual like it's stuff you can interact with more than stuff you can interact with. I mean, the Nemesis,
yeah,
technically, you do interact with it, you force it down these rabbit holes, but the next few things we talk about, you have no control over. It's the game doing its thing.
yeah. Um, but I will say, the ping system is definitely the thing that Apex Legends has over other battle royale games.
Is the
Um,
ping the same as, like, because I'm thinking pinging in, like, League of Legends, ping in the bush, is it the same kind of like that?
for someone who has not played League of Legends, I don't know. Um, but like the pinging in Apex, you know, just to be able to point stuff out just with a button press of the controller,
Yes,
to where you
same thing over.
literally don't have to where you don't have to talk to anybody at all, and but they still know contextually what you want to do.
Oh, so
Um,
like a upgraded version of the Overwatch ping system. Kind of.
yeah, kind of,
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah. So the
but yeah,
Nemesis system, deep in depth, it's involved. It's I'm glad that it's a thing, and I would like to see it in a little bit more stuff, but judging by this Wikipedia article and the fact that you're right, 2017 was the last time we heard about it, and we haven't heard any mention of them bringing games forward into the next gen. I'm thinking we might get something right quick here. Hopefully, unless COVID is like,
yeah,
hey, die.
exactly. Like, it's hard to say with any studio nowadays, like how they were affected by what happened in last year. So, it could be maybe they were going to announce something last year and they just, you know, everything pushed stuff back. It's really hard to say. Um, or maybe they were supposed to announce something this year and it's already been pushed back because of things.
Yeah.
So, but based on the timing, I wouldn't be surprised to see them talk about something in the next couple days. Next couple days. Next couple years.
Yeah. The Mass Effect dialogue wheel. No, that is not a hidden mechanic, but that is a mechanic in gaming that we already have some plans for that because that is a cool mechanic too. Uh, I found the energy for you right now, and I think we're back. I hope we're back. I'm sorry about
Let's
the
see.
crash, y'all.
And you unmuted us too, just in
I
case.
remembered that.
OBS. Okay.
Surprisingly, I remembered
It,
that.
I think we are back. I believe we are.
I'm sorry about that, y'all. OBS decided today is the day to crash. Thank you for rocking with us so far. I'm gonna stitch this all together after this and upload it as one so you don't have to deal with all the crashing and all that. So, oh, sorry, y'all.
Yeah,
But,
it's just it happens. Um,
oh,
Sometimes tech does not let you do what you want to do.
and it's on a fresh restart too, so there's nothing I can do. OBS is just having a day, so I'm hoping we might not be able to run 3 hours like we did with last show, but we might have to do a part two of this video.
For sure.
Because this Resident Evil stuff is gonna
Anyway,
take us forever. So
yeah.
this thing I want to talk about is day and night cycles, and it was so we're so into it now that we don't think of it as really anything because it's a day and night cycle, whatever. But I want to talk about some like nuance with the day and night cycle because a lot of games when it started coming out, it didn't really affect anything. But now, I think the first game that it really affected and I paid attention to it was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood because the guards would change at the night cycle and day cycle, which I always thought was so cool. Why? It was like you had to get it done in a certain amount of time before the guard shift changed, and I haven't really seen. I mean, I haven't played every single game out there, but I haven't seen something like that happen in a while. I mean, day and night cycles is whatever now.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of games that have at least a day and night cycle, but it doesn't really affect the world per se. Um, just that instantly comes to mind is there's so in Elder Scrolls Online they have an actual in-game clock that's faster than normal time, and it goes through a day and night cycle. But
Hmm.
literally nothing in the world changes because it's a persistent MMO world. So it's like,
Yeah,
what are we going to change here? Because we need people to be able to do all these quests and all these other activities like at any point in the day. It just literally just changes it from day to night in the looks department. So it just looks different.
and I didn't even think, and I don't know why I didn't think about this because I'm addicted to this game right now. Red Dead Redemption, the day and night cycles, it changes. Doesn't change a lot, but it changes what animals can come out if you're hunting.
See, so,
Which
yeah, that makes sense.
there's so much. We could do a whole video on Red Dead Redemption 2 and just the hidden details in there, because that game is so detailed.
Yeah, I still need to play that game. I really do. I
I
still
haven't
have
finished
not
it,
played
don't
that game.
worry.
Yeah. Um, but Toxic in the chat said day and night cycles in Fortnite is fire. It keeps you from getting fatigued by looking at the same map daily. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, but does it? I don't. But does it actually change the gameplay? I don't think it would.
no. Uh,
Um,
Witcher 3 was another one that had it, because there's only so certain monsters you can hunt in the day and night.
that's true. Yeah, that is
I'm
true.
not sure if Cyberpunk has that. To be honest, I played a few hours and then I was like, I gotta wait till they fix this. It might. I think the original game, it probably was slated to a lot would change at night to day, but it really doesn't change from night to day to night,
Yeah,
whatever.
I think a lot of it's just to have it actually do something. I think a lot of that is very hard to actually do, especially when you have an open world game where you have people that are expected to do a certain task to where it's like restricting them to a certain time of day. At least for some players, would just frustrate them and be
Yes,
like, "Why? No, why do I have to wait till this or that to do this?" And I know there's got to be a game that does it, and I'm thinking there is, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head. There's definitely a game that does do better night cycle stuff, and yeah, like Toxic said, Minecraft has the night cycle where the zombies come out, and
hmm
actually Dying Light is exactly what I was trying to think of.
hmm
So thank you for that, Toxic. But yeah, the night cycle in Dying Light is one of those things that I loved because like
it's a
you do
different game.
not want to go out. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a completely different game. It changes from basically an action game into a straight up horror, like do not go out at night um, type of thing. So yeah, I think Dying Light does it well in that way.
uh,
There's
Final
there's
Fantasy 15,
not.
although that was a middling game at best.
Mhm.
The day night cycle, you're right. It's so hard. It's like the Nemesis system. It's so Dal says Pokemon. I haven't played enough
Mhm.
Pokemon. It's so hard to. It's easy to do because most games now will have a day and night cycle, but it's so hard to do to change things. Like you have Red Dead, like the animals to come out, or Final Fantasy 15, where the monsters, the titans appear, or you have to hunt certain monsters at night, or you can only enter certain dungeons at night, which is not bad since they do have that you could wait function, but some games don't have that. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's you pretty much almost have to put a wait function in there to that way you don't have to worry about that.
Especially if the mission point and a point you want to go to is so far apart. It's like, well, I'm just gonna wait here. Then I don't want to go and then have to come all the way back.
And yeah, Toxic was talking about there's actually for a story based game to do it. Makes some sense. Like Gears One that Toxic just said, where at nighttime there are the levels that if you go out into the darkness, the birds would come down and actually swoop in and kill you.
That's
Um,
true.
uh, so yeah, that's a good use of it for sure. Um, but it's much easier to do that in a more linear story based game where you go from point A to B, and you basically dictate when that nighttime is coming. Um,
Exactly. It's not. By the way, we are. I'm having tech a brain difficulty too, but technical difficulties. So if we might crash a few times, I'm gonna stitch this all together, download it all, stitch it all together, and put it up as a video for you guys to watch. But don't worry, it's all gonna be normal. If you want to sit back and rewatch this, which you should, because this is episode 3, and Trevor is a wealth of knowledge, especially last episode. And I mean, look how much he talked about the Nemesis system and the information he had to give us there. You should be watching. Linear based is, I feel, is different than an open world. I mean, like I point out with Assassin's Creed at night, I think they even have it in the newer games. I haven't played Valhalla, or Odyssey yet. I know I gotta start Odyssey. I'm still I'm finishing the DLC for Origins. Life came up and smacked me in the ass and said, "Hey, you can't play this right."
Yeah,
But
they do have it in the newer ones. It affects some stuff, but not everything.
yeah, I just feel like that was
Um,
the one I noticed it in Brotherhood because Brotherhood was when did Brotherhood come out? Ugh, I'm old and I can't
I'm
remember.
not. Two was 2008,
So
maybe.
2010. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, my heart.
Because the first game was 2006, I believe.
Yeah, still my favorite
So
game. The Assassin's Creed series.
yeah, yeah, so yeah, that would make sense.
And night
Um,
cycles are weird. It's very not
yeah,
very often they affect the world.
yeah, because in the newer Assassin's Creeds, I know they have them. I want to say like it affects some things. Like I know in Origins, like the actual like the sun actually affects your character because if you go out into the desert into the sun, it actually you'll start hallucinating and stuff because you're in a desert. Um,
Y'all, give
so
us your suggestions for hidden game mechanics, stuff you can't interact with, because Trevor just gave me that idea, and I'm like, oh, we're doing a part 2 of this.
yeah, and I was just looking. Um, Animal Crossing does it
Oh
well
yeah.
because literally, like, there are places that close in the world that you can't go to at night. Like you can't go to the museum and stuff like that certain times of day, uh,
And then
which is
Harvest
in it.
Moon and Stardew Valley too.
Yeah, yeah. So those types of games, and it makes sense for those types of si- I don't even know what the heck the genre is for those types of like the life sim.
Simulation games, yeah.
Yeah, the life sim stuff. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense for those games. Um, which
Fascinating.
I've never been great at those games. Well, like Stardew Valley, I tried to get into it. It's not my jam, but I can see how people get like super into it. So
I just bought it, and as somebody who was addicted to Harvest Moon series for a very long time, I'm like, I have to clear my schedule. Like, I gotta make sure I don't have any reviews coming up because I will get sucked in, and you'll never hear from me again.
yeah, like I totally get it. Like I get the appeal. They're just not for me. But
Mhm. Y'all better be
but
subscribing. Y'all better be having your water. We're one away from 300, so tell your grandmama. She might like some things. She was around for the start of video games. She might like it. Don't tell her that. Don't
yes,
call her old, though, please.
call her experienced.
See, this is why I have Trevor on the team. 'Cause he that bit. So
Yeah. So
this is a big one. So this is going to be broken down into a couple sections. Trevor, you can decide. Do we want to do the Resident Evil 4 AI? Do we want to do the out of bounds stuff and how they light and show things? Or do we want to do the AI balancing and directing for like Valve games?
let's let's talk about the let's talk about the AI.
Oof, okay. So this is another Game Maker's Toolkit, and he's talking about Resident Evil 4. Game Maker's Toolkit. We referenced his video for the Nemesis, how to Nemesis system creates a story. Whoa, okay, thought OBS was losing its mind. So I've never played Resident Evil, surprisingly. I'm waiting for the remake, even though it does look good. But I do watch speedruns of Resident Evil, and I have watched a lot of these behind the scenes videos. So before we even get into I'm gonna pause this video because it's very short. Before we even get into the meat and potatoes, tell me what Resident Evil 4 is and where it falls in the Resident Evil timeline.
Ooh. So Resident Evil 4. Um, I mean, it's pretty much. I think it's actually literally Leon's next story past two. So, if you've played the remake for two, um, four is where his kind of timeline in a sense continues on. Uh,
Is it Maybelline or is it Car Crash? Oh, we should be back with sickness. Ooh, I hope so. Looks like we're back. All right,
are
so we
we?
should be good. I think so. Should be good. I did a full restart. If it crashes after this, then we're just gonna record this offline and put it up.
Yeah.
Cause
So, all right,
I want to
cool.
cry.
We got this.
So I was asking
We're
Trevor
back.
before OBS did his thing. Tell me what Resident Evil is, and tell me where in the timeline, and why it's the greatest game amongst even the remakes. He says.
It just I think Resident Evil 4, I think much like what 7 did, it changed the game. Um whereas it took it from this, it kind of changed it more from the horror, straight horror. So you could almost say that there's like eras of games where the games before Resident Evil 4 were more horror games. And then 4 ushered in the action games, which, granted, 4 is the best of those. Um,
Yeah,
and then seven brought back the horror with but changed it into a first person game. But seven comes. It's pretty much Leon's next adventure after Resident Evil 2. So it's kind of the first time you play as him. I think I can't remember where Code Veronica's in there, and I can't remember if Leon is actually in that or not. But it's man, it's been so long trying to remember all of this, all of the Resident Evil lore and where each game sits. Can be kind of daunting,
no kidding.
um, but Resident Evil 4, I think it did a good job of changing things up. It had the action, but it still had a lot of that horror element. When you're in the village, yeah, there's a ton of action going on. It's like the first time where the village is all coming in on you and trying to kill you, and there's just like everything busting down the windows and trying to keep everybody out of this one building that you're in. But they're still coming and coming at you. And the first time you see that dude with the chainsaw, it's
Ooh,
like the scariest thing in the world, and you're just like, no. And I got to tell you, the first time the chainsaw guy cut my head off, like it was both the most horrific and awesome thing I had ever seen in my life at that point. Back in 2004, I think, when this game came out. It was either 04 or 05, but I mean, this game was like this was the epitome of like the GameCube at the time.
yeah.
And it it was just such a good game. Yeah, it's gonna feel a little dated today. Just because the whole you have to actually stop and point and shoot instead of being able to move and shoot at the same time. Kind of dates it a little bit, but it still plays very well. I mean, it's you can still go into it and play it today. I mean, I have in the past year, so it's not like it's like old enough to where I'm like playing it and like, well, I don't, I can't really control it anymore or anything like that. It's not a golden eye in that sense where
Oh
you
my
can't go
god.
back and play it. Like golden eye is so hard to get back into just because the control scheme is not set up for anything modern. Um, it
Yeah,
still feels like it's a modern game. Yeah, maybe everything looks a little too brown now. But hey, that
that was
was
that
that
period.
era. Yeah,
Really was.
that period of time was the brownout of video games. um,
Really was.
the browning or whatever we want to call it, but yeah, it's just it's kind of it's like the gold standard of Resident Evil games is Resident Evil 4.
And we're even
The
gonna
story's
see a lot of
the
that
story's
Resident
great.
Evil in Village, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very excited to see what, if any, like how those connect. Where the through line is between 4 and 8, uh, that sort of thing. So I'm very, very curious where they're going with that, or if it'll even maybe it won't have any connection.
I mean,
So
the cachet cases got to be
that's true.
something,
Yeah.
because
Um,
it was great and frustrating from what I've seen.
oh yeah, yeah. The playing Tetris with all your stuff and having to buy new cases but like that was part of the charm. Like there's just so much charm in that game where it's like you get to play Tetris with all your with your inventory. You get to go up to the shopkeeper. He pulls the thing up and he's like, "What are you buying?"
Yeah,
Ha.
that
That's the
shopkeeper is
shopkeeper there.
iconic.
Yeah, like you will never forget that shopkeeper. And it's kind of the only it might be the only Resident Evil game that I can say that I like really fell in love with. Um,
Wow,
Even though I mean I really really like the remake for 2. Like it's
it
definitely up there.
is really good.
But I don't think I'd have the affinity for the 2 remake if I didn't play 4.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
if as weird as that sounds, but yeah, 4 is just it's a great game. It's a classic in every sense of the word. Um, and we, I don't know if I, I would say maybe we knew it at the time because I mean it reviewed extremely well, but like maybe we didn't know it was going to end up being the classic at the time. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way to tell. It's like, who would have thought Star Wars would be what it is today?
yeah,
Nobody.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I,
there's a reason. There's a reason they've released a Resident Evil 4 on every system since the GameCube has come out.
that's true. That's
So
true. And as awful as Resident Evil 6 is, I'm glad that they didn't abandon the whole game or the whole franchise because, I mean,
they
they
could
could
have.
have. I think if
They
8, no, if 7 had been on the same lines as 6, we might not be looking at any Resident Evil remakes. But thank
I don't think
history,
we would.
yeah, thank history that they took a different route, even though people were complaining. I can't wait to see what shenanigans Ethan is going to get into. I really don't give a crap about Ethan. I didn't really like him in 7, but that lady to Mitch. Mm, mm. And I don't like Mia enough
And
to save her either, so.
yeah, and Toxic in the chat talking about there was a lot of hate on 5, and I liked 5 too at the time.
Yeah,
I think it was just I mean it wasn't as good as 4. I think it's just more I would say it's a bit more actiony than 4. It had less of the horror, like they started to get more away from the horror
mhm,
aspect of it, and I don't know if it was just but I think it was a fun game. I think it was a great co-op experience because that's kind of the first time they ever did co-op, at least in a game that wasn't like this weird online. Because I know they tried to do that co-op game for like PS2. I can't remember what the heck it was called.
oh,
Was it Outbreak?
I think it was,
Maybe.
but I'm not a thousand
Yeah,
percent sure there.
but like it just like it didn't have voice chatting, and it was just so like just wasn't great. Um,
But we can't, and I know a lot of people, I'm with you guys. I think Resident Evil 5 was actually fairly good. if we didn't have games like Resident Evil 5 and 6, we would not appreciate what Resident Evil 4 is. I can tell you that right now. Be like, why would I pay 4 when 5 was newer, but it's the same thing? You gotta have the bad to
Yeah,
appreciate the good.
yeah, that's definitely true. But yeah, I think 6 is where it kind of wore out its welcome. But luckily, we had a Capcom that was like, okay, we get it.
Hmm.
Let's go back to the drawing board, and they came out with 7, which was something completely different, and that's what they needed to do at the time. So
That's the
that
credit I
was
give
smart on
Ubisoft
their part.
too. Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed after, was it Rogue that they stopped? And they're like, let us, no, after
Yeah,
Unity.
because Unity, well, Unity I think came out the same year as Rogue, because
Yes,
Unity was on next gen at the time, and then Rogue was on like the 360
yeah.
and PS3.
Because their stories actually
So
intertwine, which I'm eventually planning on doing a big ass Assassin's Creed playthrough, but I need to sit down and plan that. That's like 13 games, not including off branch titles. Yeah,
yeah,
prepare for that.
yeah, it's
Snacks.
a a lot of work, a lot
So,
of work to get through all those again.
Resident
Um,
Evil 4, which leads us into this, our first video. I'm going to put captions on too, if they're available. Leads us into, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens in Resident Evil. Some Trevor didn't even know about. Um, and
yeah,
some
so
they won't talk about here because some of it is speedrunning tech, which is like stuff most people will never touch. So, but
mm,
tell me about what you didn't know about Resi here.
so I had no idea it had adaptive difficulty. I had no clue. Which I mean they never advertised that as like a back of the something that they put on the back of the box. I mean it was
Hmm.
never anything like that. So like it wasn't one of those things that was advertised. Literally, I did not know that it had the adaptive difficulty. So essentially in Resident Evil 4, if you're doing good, the game gets harder. Um, essentially.
Yep.
So that way it makes it more challenging for you. If you are doing terrible, the game gets easier.
Hmm.
And I had no idea it was doing that, but it makes total sense. Because it's one of those games where when you're playing it, it always has this feeling that there's a challenge there, but it's not like a Souls game challenging to where you're frustrated about it.
Hmm.
Um, so it's got that perfect like, oh well, I died here, but like you always felt like you were close, like,
Hmm.
but I was close. I was getting there,
Yeah.
and then you don't even realize like this scene that was just being shown on the screen where it has
Yeah, I paused
the
it.
extra enemies, and uh, I didn't. I like it's something that when you're playing it, you don't even pay attention and realize that there are actually less enemies coming at you if you die a couple times.
So
Like
let me.
I wouldn't have ever like had I not seen this video and it told me, I would have never known. Like I never realized it. Never came to that realization
It's
because I've never
seamless.
watched any speed runs or anything. So
Yeah.
and yeah, just the way they do it, and I think it's smarter for them to not tell people that it's doing it. Um,
Yeah, because then
because
it
like
almost feels insulting sometimes. Like, why don't I pretty much should I just started? So it could also, no, it's not Restream. It's OBS. OBS. I like to blame Restream because 90% of the time that is what is causing it.
yeah,
That is, I think we did. We're back. I'm sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm gonna stitch this video together and we'll put it up as one video so you can watch it. And we're gonna touch on these topics again on the next time we do this video because it might be a little cut up. But the Resident Evil 4, I think I noticed it before we got too far into this video. Who's breaking up the stream? It's just OBS fame, and I don't know why because 2 hours ago I was streaming Control with no issues aside from it being a little choppy. But I also had my drawing program up. But OBS is just shutting down, so this is going to be stitched all together, and up as one video later on. So I'm sorry, y'all. I
Well,
know I'm sorry to Trevor.
hey, I mean, it happens. Like sometimes it's just there's nothing you can do. Like it's no one's fault. It just technology just technologies, uh, and decides to break your heart,
And I did a
just
full
like you're
restart,
doing to
so
me
it's
right now,
not that.
Venus. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, you've tried what you could try. It's just something just is conflicting with it, and you know it's a computer, so it could be 1,000 different things.
yeah. I'll
Um,
have to scroll, do log checks and all this after. But oof,
yeah, it's
yeah,
just it's one of those things. You know, it is what it is.
exactly. Next week it should be fine. Hopefully. Knock on wood. Because I can't take this 2 weeks in a row. Now I know what
Yeah,
fame feels when we're doing the UXP when stuff starts going wrong. I'm like, it is what it is. Can't change it.
yeah. Hey, like I said, it happens. It's not it's nothing. It's nothing that we're doing on purpose. Everybody seems to be very understanding um, in the chat, so we appreciate all of you uh, and sticking with us because we legit enjoy doing the show and
Hell yeah.
talking about all of the stuff that we talk about
Hell yeah.
on this show. So, but yeah,
Uh,
like we were saying, like I think it's Resident Evil 4 is better that I didn't know. Even though like now I feel both gut, but like I also like tip my hat to the development team. Like I think I have a lot more respect for for the development team just knowing that they had this adaptive difficulty and it was like that for what's going on. What that was like 05 ish, so like 16 years, and I had no idea that it actually had the adaptive difficulty. So, I mean, kudos to them for doing that.
yeah. Okay. There. So, oh, I just gotta pop up telling me what could be wrong. Okay. Uh, so on the screen is like that adaptive difficulty. This is I don't know this room. This the water room. That's all I know it as. When you come in, you have 7 enemies. If you're doing well, you come in 7 enemies, 2 snipers. But if you die, the 2 snipers are now missing. It's a small detail. You still have 7 enemies to face, but or you still have 7 main enemies, but now you don't have 2 snipers to face. And he points out other small things throughout the game that do that. Some enemies will be missing, but it's never enough that you notice it. Because, like I said, Trevor didn't even know. And you've played this game,
Yeah,
what,
and it's
10,000 times?
oh yeah, I mean, I've played through it like a ton. Like I can't tell you how many times I've started it again, but like I mean, I've played through it several times too. So it's I mean, and like the video talks about like having that good flow, and that's exactly what the game has. It's a flow where it's not too easy, it's not too hard. It's the right amount of challenge that gets you in the game. And I think they talked about too where it's not only the enemies and stuff like that, but like your actual pickups, like the loot and stuff you get is better if you're doing worse, and it
Mhm.
actually isn't as good if you're doing well. So it's different ways they use to balance the game to basically make it to where it just like keeps that same flow throughout. And
Not easy.
like yeah, kudos to the dev team. I mean, to think of about doing it like back then too. Like I mean, this was what how many generations? Like 4 generations now.
Think?
Holy crap! Eh.
Yeah.
To think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I mean, there's no
and
reason why you can't beat this game. I understand not playing it, but not beating it. The game
mm,
literally will do it for you if you let it
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, it's but it's really honestly it's a fantastic game. Like I would like to see it, and I hope the rumors of it be getting the remake is true because I would love to see I would love to see what it would look like given the Resident Evil 2 treatment. Um,
Oh,
and getting basically getting the the gameplay updates that Resident Evil 2 has. So I'm all for it.
that would be. I mean, it looks good on PC. But could you
Mhm.
imagine? Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah, because I think really more than anything, it'll kind of make those textures pop instead of just feeling like brown like chunks. Just because
hmm
that's the way that's just the way it was then.
And now
You
you
didn't
don't
get
need
that.
to have that poop filter on it. You can just have the game, and you can create.
Yeah,
Man, I can't wait if it's actually true.
yeah. Like I'm super interested to see how it goes. So I will definitely play it again in a remake form. Um, even though I've purchased it on every system like ever.
I mean, we were talking before the show started about the Tomb Raider, the new games launching a trilogy, and I was like, shit, I might buy it. Like, who am I? Am I gonna
Yeah,
say no to Lara? Nah, I'm not.
can't.
You know what was another interesting, and I don't have a video for it, that's super cool that nobody talks about, because most people, I will be 1,000% probably don't know about it, is I think it's Silent Hill 2, and I know it's not the only game, but this is the one that sticks out, is the final boss. If you go in with no ammo in your inventory, you dump all of it, you can finish the boss without actually fighting the boss. She'll immediately die. I'm like, that's like
Oh,
I like that.
that's interesting. I
Because
didn't
most
know that.
people won't, they'll go and they'll collect their ammo and do all this stuff and pick everything up, and like, no, if you just go in with no ammo, she'll she'll eat herself. And I wonder how many other games have that in there. I'm not going to a final boss fight without ammo. That's dumb. But
Right.
maybe not.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
That's the kind of like
Man, there's
we would need a month to like do a proper hidden in everything video, because there's so many like that small mechanics that are just there.
that they just completely change up what the game does.
hmm
I mean, because I don't think honestly, I don't think Resident Evil 4 would be as good without it. Now that I know it's there.
Yeah,
So
because I think it would be like a Bloodborne where it's just too hard for some people,
yeah,
especially with
yeah, I think so
before
too.
you get to actually. Also, the guy we're watching, Game Maker's Toolkit, he has a Patreon and he has a channel, Game Maker's Toolkit. If you want to go and follow him for more stuff, because it's a
Yeah, I
rabbit
mean,
hole that you get into.
yeah, his videos are really good. I definitely got sucked into a little bit of a rabbit hole earlier today, checking
Yep.
a lot of that stuff out.
Also, thank you to Survivor Horror Network. Uh, I'm, I have their long play up of Resident Evil while we talk about it before we go into the next Resident Evil topic, but I just want to stay on Resident Evil 4 because, like I said, I've never played it, but I appreciate what it does and what it did for gaming and what it continues to do, because that dynamic difficulty is something so small, but up until Trevor was 21 years old until he found out about that dynamic difficulty.
And actually, one that the Chakalaka pointed out is Silent Hill 1 for PS1 had fog because of the hardware limitations of the
hmm
draw distance, leading to the scary atmosphere. So, yeah, that's actually a good one to point out, especially with older games, how they would cordon off certain areas like that because just the hardware was limited. You couldn't have this big open world space to do stuff in at times. So yeah, that's actually a really good one.
And
Um,
I appreciate that the fog was there to get that limited draw distance, but they didn't do like what some of the remakes, not remakes, like knockoff, I should say. is they just stay indoors for a lot of it. Like Cry of Fear was big on that. They stayed indoors to give it that false sense of spookiness. Although Cry of Fear is really good and it's free, go play it. That limitation was, you thought it was there for aesthetics wise, now there because the PlayStation would have combusted.
Yeah, and I think like ideas such as that even help game design in general, not just video games. Just thinking about like D&D adventures. So if you look at something like Ravenloft, like Curse of Strahd, where like that setting in that adventure in particular uses fog as a way to lead players in a certain direction. Whereas it's basically used as a way to, if your players go out into the fog, they magically get led back to the road that they were walking on to basically keep them from going in one direction or another. And that's just in like a tabletop adventure game and not a video game. So um, I think these things inform each other, and I wonder how much of these ideas kind of have like a symbiotic effect from one space to the next, because I know a lot of video game stuff is informed by tabletop stuff, but I also think that tabletop also pulls a lot from video games now,
Yeah,
especially. So
that's an interesting
it's
thought.
interesting.
What is the symbiosis of? I mean, you can have an adaptive difficulty setting like this and not have it affect everything else.
Yeah,
It's
and
impossible.
that's and adaptive difficulty in like a tabletop game is what a dungeon master does all the time. You're a dungeon master's constantly looking at, well, how do I make this challenging for the player but not unfair? Because you don't want it to be unfair because then it's not fun.
Hmm.
But you also want it to be challenging because if it's too easy, then it's still not fun. So you're constantly trying to find that balance as a dungeon master, and it's the same for a video game. So it's uh, the more they're both very different, but also very alike. Like all games kind of have that sense to where they can work off of each other, and it's interesting just from a all around game design standpoint, not just in the video game genre or the tabletop or even board games and stuff like that have mechanics like that. It's cool to think about.
Really cool. 'Cause, again, this is the hidden what?
It's it's so weird, especially because you literally streamed earlier, and it was like, we're cool.
Yeah, and I left it open and everything. I'm gonna grab some wine. My brain.
All right, it's looking like we're back up.
What's up? Sorry about
What's
that,
up,
y'all.
guys?
OBS is mm,
OBS officially hates us.
mm,
We're
it's
we're
we're too
currently
sexy.
at war with OBS.
Well, it's 'cause you over
Uh,
there looking like a good ass bowl of pasta, so I'm not surprised. I really love pasta.
well,
But
I want some now. Dang it.
ugh, I mean,
Um,
it's never too late for some good carbs. So,
that's true. That's true.
well,
Although probably probably should be at times.
should be, but you never say no to carbs. While we were, losing our minds there, and OBS has been crashing on us, which we're not gonna drag this show out too long because I'm gonna figure this out. Um, Trevor does be looking like a good baked potato. Damn you right. Uh, we gained two more subs two more subscribers. Two more subscribers. We are at 301 subscribers on this channel.
Nice.
Sarang. You guys should follow
Awesome.
Trevor and I's personal channel too. Man,
Well, you can follow me on Twitter, but um, you can follow the Winterborn channel. We'll throw some sweet trailers and stuff whenever we have a new one of those for our game
and
up
your
on there.
podcast
So,
was, oh god, I forgot her name. Just did
oh
the
yeah, our podcast, How to Build a Game Studio.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
that is also up on there that you can check out now.
sweet.
We have converted to the video podcast alongside our podcast on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify and all those other places that podcasts are served. Which you can also subscribe to this podcast on there if you want to listen to it again on
Mm-hmm.
Fridays. Um, you don't get to see our lovely faces, but you get to hear our sultry voices.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which means I need to work on this video tonight so we don't have a patchy ass podcast. Awesome. Um, yeah, Trevor does look like a good ass baked potato. But we are going to have these last two videos, and then we're gonna make a part 2 of this video. We're probably gonna go over some of the stuff we talked about today, just so it's in one cohesive unit. But if you guys have some more behind the scenes hidden mechanics that you want us to talk about, because I mean, we just talked about the Assassin's Creed uh, Desert in Origins, the Silent Hill 2 finishing the fight without ammo. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we uh, not miss, but just can't cram into a single episode. So make sure you guys drop that for us. And we're going to talk about right now is how oh God, what is the channel's name? I brought it up. Flippy Slides? Slippy
yeah,
Slides.
I believe so. Yeah.
He does a lot of like out of bounds videos for a lot of games, but we're going to look at the Resident Evil 2 remake. And the title of this video is How Does Mr. X Work Off Camera? But he's going to show a lot of how a lot of stuff works off camera that you don't see in the game. And I hope that the captions are right because they're auto generated and sometimes they're just off on another dimension. They really are.
Yeah,
Look real
it's hard
good.
to get a computer to unless you have like the clearest voice to pick up everything. So, um, that stuff's getting better and better though, surprisingly.
It
Like
really is.
it's pretty close. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how close it does get. Um, Usually, unless you start talking about like things that have like names that are made up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then it goes crazy.
Or
Um,
like since I watch a lot of Korean videos, they have a lot of
mm,
trouble with certain ways that things are said, and it's just an abomination.
yeah.
So yeah, Resident Evil, the remakes at least, and we're only gonna be talking about 2 because 2 is what I know most about, has a lot of tricks into it. And you should really watch these videos because he's going to show what the camera angle is that you see and what is actually happening and where the characters go when they're done and certain lighting tricks and techniques. And it's really cool. And there's so much. I mean, we know that behind the scenes something has to be going on, but we never think about Kratos T-posing like 10 feet into the air ready to drop into a scene after a cutscene's over. We don't think about that. And it's just so, especially when he shows the underground scene where Ada comes to Leon's aid, it's just so genius because it's literally seconds that they're swapping between like 4 different camera angles, and it looks like if you didn't know what's going on, you'd be having a seizure or something. It just boom, 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 boom. But it's somebody, or not somebody, because Capcom is not a small team, but it's a team of people that are doing this, and just
Yeah, I think seeing the cutscenes from the different angles is probably, at least for me, the most interesting part, because
mhm,
it's like these are like this is the stuff that you wouldn't think about, because if you think about it in the way like a film is made, they film stuff, they'll set stuff up the film from this angle and they'll do it, and then they'll reset and basically film stuff from a different angle to get different shots. So they're
mhm.
doing stuff again over and over, and essentially that's kind of what they're doing here,
Mhm.
except it's done with like not real people, so they can basically like jump move them to where they need them to be for certain angles for certain lighting, and stuff
So
like that. So it's really cool the way they do that.
we're gonna go over a scene here. Um, I rewound a bit and slowed it way down so we can go over the scene because a lot is happening in this dialogue exchange. It's when Ada and Leon are there when the dogs first come out. So there's going to be a lot of pausing, and we're going to talk about it because this is a very complex theme. So the first scene is after Leon gets attacked by the dogs, the light is shining, and then he moves the camera, and you know he's talking to Ada, but Ada isn't there. So this is where I'll show you guys in real time after we break this down, but we're going to go step by step because this is amazing. So Ada's here now. The light is behind her because in the camera angle in the game, you're talking to her. But Leon and the dog are gone, which they don't need to be in the scene. It helps free up space, so there's no, uh, you know, running issues. Oops. It wanted me to put some captions on. I don't want to put captions on. So and now the camera switched. Leon, what did I say, Chris? Leon is having his dialogue, Ada is gone, and also the light is gone. But there's light behind him to give the edge lighting, like he's still talking to Ada, and the light is behind her, which is super cool, and I don't know how they figured it out. And now there's a spotlight right on the dog and Leon, which you don't see because it's supposed to be the edge light. Very cool little detail. And now she's standing in the background over here. The light is behind them again, so he can shoot the dog, but her stuff is still not animated. Shoots the dog. Awesome. Cool. They've frozen their models. The light is behind Ada, so they can get ready to move her. He's not holding his gun anymore, by the way, either. The gun is now floating, which I love it. Thank you. She's gone because the camera angle is on him while he's talking. And then when she comes back, she's also not going to be holding her gun. It's going to be floating above her hand. And there it is, just peeking out above her little grip, floating all the way out. And now that they're in front of each other, the scene is back to normal with the appropriate lighting. Even the lighting behind Ada where she was standing, and the lighting behind Chris to give him the edge, or Leon to give him the edge light, and the lighting in front of them to give them the full focus light. And so let me play that for you in real time because it'll go by so fast that you guys will not even notice half of what we pointed out. All right, here we go. After Birkin Falls. So here it is. Boom, 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 boom. And scene is set. And there it is. That was 4 seconds. All that happened in 4 seconds. I
Yeah,
can't believe
it's
that.
crazy.
And that's not even like
Yeah,
the most complex. That's just the 3 models they're moving.
yeah, and again, it's very much like almost like how they would film a movie, except sped up,
Mm-hmm.
because they can do the separate scenes. They're basically setting up separate scenes in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, instead of having a crew change this and that, they can do, since it's all digital in a video game. They can just set up a scene, boom, 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 boom,
Mm-hmm.
um, and do it in real time like that. It's really cool,
And
actually.
you can teleport the characters around. And this is when she's in the garage, but she hasn't confronted Leon yet. She's T-posing about like 5 feet above the garage, they're gonna drop her in. They do that a lot, I find, in Resident Evil. I don't know if they do it a lot in other games, but Resident Evil, they put them in the air and then drop them in. Which, okay, I guess. But that's like boom, 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 4 seconds, and that was a whole scene. This is Birkin and Claire. They're stood together because they're about to be dropped in to whatever scene they're about to be in together. What did you say? Game development is hard. It is very hard. We should do an episode on movement mechanics in games. I mean, there's tons of movement mechanics. Games like Ghost
Yeah.
Runner, Lufar, Mirror's Edge, Bionic Commander, Titanfall. Yeah, I mean, hell yeah, we're down to do that. Add that to the list.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just so fascinating. And this is another cool scene. It's the jail scene where Mr. X is his first arm appearance. We don't see him yet, and just the trickery that they do. And it's not something we think of because we're too horrified in the second to realize what the heck is going on. But they just pop him in there.
Yeah, I just think it's like, I think the most interesting thing to me is that it's very similar to movie magic in that way. Like I think closer than people would think,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy because especially now with the way games look and everything, I think games and movies are closer than they've ever been. And while they are different genres, they do share a lot of techniques for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking about that the last episode. Is we're so at such a high fidelity. Where do we go from here? Because we already have motion capture. It's a 1-to-1 90% of the time. Where do we go? Games are so, and it's not the only game that does it, but it's the one that we could see like a clear representation. Some of these games are very hard to do. There was somebody that early 2020 finally cracked ET where you could go out of bounds. Finally, after 5 years, I think. That's impressive. Games over movies, don't at me. It depends on the movie and the game, and it's just your feeling, you know. I prefer to watch an Avengers movie. Just click the. Don't say that. Um. Yes. We're back.
Yep.
So we're gonna not tally too much longer. We're just gonna talk about a few more things. We're gonna move the rest of this to another video or another day. I will put this all together, smush it all together like a hot pancake, and you guys can watch this or listen to it uh, one uninterrupted thing. So yeah, Mr. The moving behind and all this really cool stuff that happens is, and I think the one thing we can, Jesus Christ, one thing we can take away is game development is hard, very hard,
Oh yeah.
and you would
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of that, and our games are like, I mean, on a small indie scale, so I can just imagine at least the planning and the work to get all these camera angles and everything down for something like this. It's got to be a ton of work, like an insane amount of work. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I know how much, as weird as it sounds, how much math goes into our game, and it's like on a small 3D plane. I can just imagine the amount of math it took to determine exactly where to put this guy and that guy, and having them in this exact spot to do this exact, like, it takes a lot. Like, I'm just like, because I've been there when Kent, who's our studio head, has tried to solve a problem and been like, I have to do this type of equation to figure this out, and I'm just like, yeah, that's on you. Good luck,
Yep.
because that's I'm glad in my role I'm not the guy doing the math, so that's all I can say. It's definitely very hard and very challenging. Um, but yeah, that's why you have a lot of good people who are very good at the role that they're specified to do. So, I mean, this something like a Resident Evil game has a lot of good animators, a lot of good uh, people behind the scene. I mean, there's I don't even know how many people it takes to just create a scene, but it's a lot. Um,
I asked because you got your lighting guys. You would have the the programming, the characters, the 3D
sound.
models. Because after you design the
Mhm.
characters, you need 3D models. You would need a 3D lighter because there's the people that work on just lighting the background and lighting the characters.
Yeah,
Sound, yeah, particles. There's so much that goes into these, and that's why I always feel so bad. Like a Cyberpunk, I feel bad for the devs. I don't care about the studio
yeah,
heads because they
absolutely.
didn't
Yeah,
do any work. It's the people that dev. And
yeah, yeah. The guy that just comes in and
just
is
wants a
doing some
paycheck.
programming or doing like all of those guys want to come in and make a cool game.
Yep.
That's really like none of them come in and be like, hey, let's make sure that we just do whatever and make a game that's broken and that's not what they're looking to do. They want to come in and make a cool product. They want to make the games that they want to enjoy for
Mm,
sure.
yep.
And sometimes they're not allowed to essentially. Uh,
Um,
so
this last video clip that we're gonna run is from Sheezer, Sheezer, whatever. It's just more out of bounds stuff. And one thing I love that while we were watching that was pointed out is Mr. X is walking around. He's not just waiting. There is points in story wise where he's waiting for you to come out of the rooms, but he is walking around, teleporting, walking through the environment. They didn't have to do that. They could have just teleported him, but he showed him walking through. He teleports here and there to like be on different levels to like trick you and stuff. But it's really cool.
yeah, and the actual like the sound effects that you hear spatially are actually him.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas they could have literally just had it like randomly put sound effects like basically put sound effects on uh like a pathway essentially where it would move and just be a sound effect and not actually have the character there. But the fact that they do put the character in there too is just some extra work that they didn't have to. Um,
That
so it's really
yeah,
cool to see that.
that would be something cool that if we could do is get a sound effects, and then I want to do like a visual effects because what we're looking at is the out of bounds break, and 90% of this stuff wasn't made to be seen, but it's still made. It's like I just want to ask them like, how long did that take? Because it's still, like this bedroom was never meant to be seen, but you're still seeing it. How long did that take for you to do? It
Yeah.
amazes the level of detail that some games will go into that people will never see. A lot of it may be cut content. We're seeing that a lot with Cyberpunk. There's a lot of files left over that aren't actually in the game. Resident Evil 2 or not. Red Dead Redemption 2 also has a lot of that in their base story game. Strange Man, he does a lot of the data mines and stuff into the game. You see a lot of stuff that's like, oh, that would have been cool if that was put in the game. Like, okay, there's a lot of leftover files still there. I just want to ask them, how did you do this?
Mhm.
And why? Well, for a
Yeah,
paycheck.
there's a lot that goes into it. Um,
Mm,
a ton, and even just the sound effects to get the sound effect to do it properly in the right spot at the right time, and then you think about 3D sound, and so many people have 3D headsets nowadays, so it's like you have to make sure it goes to the right speaker in the right place at the right time, and like
so much work.
wow, yeah, it's a lot to think about when you're doing this sort of thing. So a lot of very hardworking people work on this.
No kidding. So, y'all, before it decides to have a shit fit and crash, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna stitch these together tonight so you can listen to it on Friday. Unless it's, I don't know, it does me a favor and automatically just puts it up as one back to back. Please, YouTube gods, because I didn't change the key, so maybe it will. Um, this was fun. We are going to do a part two because there's a lot of things. We didn't talk about the Valve directing, we didn't talk about AI pathfinding, we haven't even scratched the surface of game development. Maybe we might bring a guest or two in one day to talk about this with us, because this is really cool, and there's a lot of stuff that, even though we are smart, we just don't know. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
pretty pretty much, yeah. You can postulate, you can try to
right?
guess as to what as to what's gonna happen and how they do this and that, but until you actually like sit there and watch them do it, then it's hard to say.
God damn, he's right. Uh, if you would like to see more of me, you can come by tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be doing the 2XP podcast. I don't know what our topics are yet. I don't know if we have a guest, but it's going down. If you want to see even more of me, because it is your midweek hugcast, Take Two is on Thursday. I don't know what time it is, because sometimes schedules change. We will be talking about the end of WandaVision, our thoughts on that, and some other stories, whatever happens to pop up. If you want to see some dope-ass content from some funny other people, Friday is the Peep Games podcast with Dallas and Baron. Baron, who's keeping level 1 running nice and smooth, and is making sure that Extra Life is looking extra cool. And Dallas, man, who is probably one of the most creative and funny people that I know, but like, he doesn't realize how funny he is. Go watch them. I wish I could give you a time, but schedules change. Now on Saturdays we have Ready Press Play. It is not live, but that's when the videos go up on Saturdays. Go see how Chakalaka and Dan are doing. Tell them that they're great people. There's nothing on Sunday or Monday yet, but I have a feeling those slots will be filled right quick. Trevor, is there anything I need to tell the lovely people before we head out, before OBS crashes again?
No, just keep subscribing to the Level 1 channel. Smash that bell, as the kids say. And then you'll know when we're going live for anything on this channel. And I know everybody at Level 1 works hard to do some cool stuff, so definitely keep doing that.
I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Remember, you can reach us. Our Twitters are under us. Actually, everything you can probably find us by is under us. Leave some comments. Leave some suggestions on what we should cover, because you already gave me some good ideas. Yeah. And we'll see you guys next week. Sarange!
Level up, never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake 'em up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. I wanna ball, waking up meant that he gave me a chance, and I'm rolling the dice. I do it all, living like I'm trying to go for the platinum trophy in life. Who can you call? Really nobody, so you should just follow me on your device. And know if she chilling with me, then it's bound to be chemical X and the sugar and spice. Game in the system, but game is the hobby. I'm probably cocky, but hot as wasabi. I mean, if it's beef, then you know where to find me. My kiss is ready, and so is my body. You should be running and telling your posse, and what's in the speakers and what's in your potty. And she trying to kick it, but this ain't karate. Just keep that shit down while I'm watching Tsunami. I ain't saying I'm a super nerd, but I told you when we got involved, my idea of a perfect date is a PlayStation and some alcohol. I was role playing on GTA. I'm a good guy, but I got it all. If the world should end, be the first to leave, but the last of us acting naughty, dog. Level up, never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a